We are here with Mr. Larry Sharpe, 2018 governor candidate for New York State. Hopefully 2022 candidate for New York State as well.
Hey guys.
We're going to go through a list of issues that the people have asked. They wanted to see solutions from a libertarian. So here we are. What's our first question there, Mr. Sharpe?
You wrote immigration. What's that question mean?
What is just what is a libertarian policy or solution to immigration? Obviously, the right thinks that we need to close. I don't even want to say the right. There's people who like immigrants coming in. There's people who don't like immigrants coming in.
Sure.
What do libertarians see as a solution to immigration?
Well, when it comes to immigration, I am the oddball when it comes to this. I'm all about answers and not about rhetoric. The average libertarian will tell you open borders, open borders, open borders. The average non-libertarian says close borders, build a wall. What I say is we absolutely can have both secure borders and vibrant immigration. We can absolutely do both. But they won't solve that problem, because if they solve that problem, then they can't use it as a wedge issue to make you hate each other.
Yeah, they want it politicized.
Absolutely. So let me give you an actual libertarian solution to our immigration problem.
You can keep going.
The first thing I want to think about is two, and not just one, but two, for a specific reason, two Ellis Islands. I want to build two Ellis Islands on the southern border. Perhaps one in maybe California, one in Texas, or whatever is the appropriate place to put them, but two of them. In each of these Ellis Islands, here's the issue. If you want to come to our country, you go to one of the Ellis Islands. The Ellis Islands are not run by the government. They are run by two separate private companies. Not the same company, two separate private companies. What happens? You want to come to our country? Awesome. You go to one of the Ellis Islands, you get checked out, whether that's a 1 week checkout or 2 weeks or whatever the case may be. You do whatever it may be to make sure you're not a terrorist or you're not a bad person. And the second that you are okayed in whatever way, shape, or form, you now get a 2-year orange card. An orange card is not a green card. It's not citizenship. It's basically a work visa. You are now authorized to work in our country. When you go to any given state, you go to a specific state, you must say what state you want to go to. The state has to agree to accept you. If states want to opt out, they may if they want to. I think it's a terrible idea, but I'm not part of every state. You go to that state and you can work there. Now, DACA had many problems, but it had two good things for sure that we should keep. And those two things are, number one, whoever is on this program cannot use in any way, shape, or form any form of public assistance. So no welfare, no public assistance whatsoever. You want to go work and pay your taxes and work, you can do that. You are basically paying taxes to work in our country. No public assistance. Second, you check in every 2 years. So you check in every 2 years. Great idea. You have an EBT card, you're out. You have public assistance, you're gone. You don't check in, we come get you. You're gone. That's how that works. Check in every 2 years, you get your work visa. But Larry, hold on. How are we going to pay for this? Well, there are literally, this is not going to be government funded. This is private company funded. Well, how in the world can they make any money? Two ways. Number one, right now in New York State, I know, but in many states, farmers, people in the hospitality industry, restaurateurs, they are literally spending thousands upon thousands of dollars in the black market to get workers. Well, don't spend in the black market. Pay these guys. Pay these actual Ellis Islands to give you workers instead of the black market. Well, Larry, how are they going to make money? The same way recruiting companies make money now. Tons of recruiting companies make money right now. So why don't we follow the same model? In fact, if we want to, have two separate recruiting companies purchase each of the Ellis Islands and they build it. And they just start making money that way. As they produce workers, they get paid. Life is good. No taxpayer money. We now have a safe way of getting people to work in our country. But hold on. I know there's more you're saying. But Larry, wait a minute. What about all the undocumented workers that we have now? You're right. We have somewhere between, 10 and 12 million of them, give or take. We don't have enough money, time, or energy right now to find them. It is impossible. We cannot get them. But what if all of a sudden they can just walk to the Ellis Island if they want to? You don't have to come up from Mexico to go to Ellis Island. You can go from anywhere. You could already be in Texas, already be in Oklahoma. You could already be in New York. Take a train, walk on down, fly down to the Ellis Island, and become official. Get your papers. Get checked out. Make sure you're not a bad person. You don't have any kind of disease. You don't got COVID or whatever is the issue we're looking for, right? None of that. Boom. You head on back. If you let people know that, a bunch will. Now, of course, will all 11 or 12 million people go? Of course not. But there will always be early adopters. Say only 500,000 of the 12 million go. That's all. That's it. Those are the only people who go. But they're going to come back to their communities and be like, I'm not afraid anymore. I'm legal. I'm paying my bills. I got my orange card. If my boss harasses me, I can sue him. If Bad Pablo wants to hurt me, I can call the cops. And all of a sudden we go, wait a minute. I don't have to be afraid of Bad Pablo? No, you don't. You can just head over to the Ellis Island and get your paperwork too. Oh my God. They'll start going too. Well, you'll say, wow, Larry, that sounds great, but there still is a Bad Pablo. You're correct. There are bad guys. Some of them are good Pablos too, but there are also bad Pablos. And if there's a Bad Pablo out there who we can't get, right now we can't get that guy. Why? Because he probably lives in an immigrant enclave filled with people who are undocumented, who are afraid of the police and won't call them out. But what if a bunch of them are now documented and legal? Well, the law enforcement wants to get Bad Pablo. They go to that enclave. The people now are legal. They go, you know what? There he is right there. Go get him. Law enforcement can actually do their job and get the Bad Pablos of the world that are in our country now that right now we can't get. We can get them, making law enforcement's job even easier. But I'm still not done. But Larry, bad people will come across our border. That's true. Some will. But here's what happens. As I said, those 2 Ellis Islands are not run by our Border Patrol. They're run by 2 private companies. So what can our Border Patrol do? Patrol the border to get the bad guys. Where they will actually not spend any extra money and they can actually patrol the border. And not just that, if anyone does happen to die in a desert crossing or anything like that, it won't be the mom or the family that wants to have a better life. They'll go to the Ellis Island because they want a better life. They won't be caught in that desert anymore. Who will be caught? Some of the bad guys. Now, to be forward, I don't want anyone to die in a desert. But if I got to pick between a bad guy or a family, I'll take the bad guy. If I got to pick, take the bad guy. It will change how things are done. It will change the entire environment. Why 2 private companies? Because then the actual consumers will decide exactly which one they use. You might say, Larry, you're asking for these companies to become bad, horrible places. No, because if one is bad, they'll go to the other. And so they're getting paid by how many people they process effectively. Well, guess what? They'll have to be good. They'll have to be humane. They won't be kids in cages. That stuff won't happen because then the immigrants won't go there. So they'll have to be good. Well, Larry, what if they give us bad people? Well, we'll know where they come from. Guess what? If they start giving us bad Pablos and they get through their system, they'll have to change their system because there will actually be a documentation of where they came from. Someone will be responsible if they're incompetent. Right now, if our Border Patrol is incompetent, oh well. If our TSA is incompetent, oh well. Now, if they are incompetent, there's someone who is responsible. You do this, it will change how immigration is done. Here's the best part. You could build more of them. But wait a minute, Larry. What about path to citizenship? What about green cards? Here's your idea. Very simple. Allow now these organizations to have their own way of making that happen. The government has guidelines. I'm making it up as an example. You go through 2-year terms of not messing up and working. You can now apply for a green card through this facility. And of course, you pay them a fee. They're authorized by the government that if they do X, Y, and Z and maybe pass an English test or whatever is the rules that they have, you follow those rules and then they'll get a green card. And X number of years with that, you don't get in trouble, whatever, apply for citizenship. But Larry, it's not fair to the people who came here another way. Yes, it is, because I'm not affecting them at all. This is a separate system with a separate payment plan. No one gets kicked out of line. You can still go through that way. But you know what will also happen? Some people will decide, you know what? It's actually faster to go through the Ellis Island and to not go through the regular system that the government has, which means that system becomes smaller and we pay less taxes because we don't have to keep that system anymore. We can save some money. So we can actually have a vibrant, controlled border, vibrant, controlled immigration without paying one extra dime, and in the long run, making us actually safer, getting the bad guys out, and spending less money.
I like it a lot. I think our next thing there is human trafficking. Kind of goes hand in hand with immigration in a sense. Also, there's a lot of human trafficking within the country as is, besides just through the borders.
parts.
Yeah.
The first part's the border. With this plan, human trafficking actually goes down tremendously.
Absolutely.
Tremendously. Because many people who are human trafficked are fooled or tricked into it. The vast majority are. Not all, obviously. Some are actually physically kidnapped, but most actually aren't. If you know that world, most are tricked into it. Right? Come on, go across this coyote. He's going to take care of you, and he's really a human trafficker. Right? It happens often. So when you have this idea, there's no need for the coyote anymore. There's no need for that. You have by default all those who are tricked into human trafficking. That entire chunk from our border goes away. So you've just reduced human trafficking by default tremendously. Don't get me wrong, there are some bad people who are doing bad things, absolutely, but most of that is coming from our drug trade. If we end the war on drugs in South America, we will also significantly reduce human trafficking coming across the border. Now, to your point, that isn't the only form of human trafficking, but immediately you will see a massive dent in it just by changing this.
Absolutely.
In addition, there's a part of human trafficking that's not actually human trafficking, and a lot of that is sex work. Sex workers who now what's happened is the word prostitution, the idea of prostitution for many Americans is no longer a priority for them. It just isn't. This part of law enforcement isn't going to get funded. People are saying, why are you attacking these women? Leave them alone. So now they've simply changed the name. And now any woman who's a sex worker who has a John, they now call her sex trafficked. She was human trafficked. She was sex trafficked. She wasn't. She was just a sex worker. Yeah. So if you change our sex worker policy, and make that shift, you will also find a difference and a change in human trafficking. So I think that is two ways to immediately make a serious impact in that.
We're good. Wrong right turn.
No worries. Did I answer that question?
Yes, you did. And another thing that there's another question on there is prohibition and the war on drugs. So maybe this is just another a good route to go right into that question right away.
Yes. Next here, though, just so you know, is abortion and law enforcement.
So abortion.
Do you want to deal with what you said, or abortion?
Let's go into war on drugs, and then we'll go
Sure.
into abortion.
Yep. War on drugs. The war on drugs is responsible for so many problems in this country. I cannot tell you all the problems that are linked to the war on drugs. Everything from race relations to over-policing to family law to divorce rates to so many problems, the war on drugs. The first step to end the war on drugs is very simple. Pull cannabis off of Schedule 1. The fact that cannabis is looked upon by our federal government as bad or worse than cocaine is insanely stupid. It was done initially. The war on drugs began a race issue. That's how it began.
Absolutely.
It has morphed into something that is far worse and insidious than that. It just destroys everything. The first answer is take cannabis off Schedule 1, which then allows people to grow cannabis to then create cannabis products. If you create cannabis products, less people will take opioids. The vast majority of our addicts have come from a legal FDA-approved opioid. You will put a massive dent into our addiction problem off the bat just by taking cannabis off Schedule 1. Once you do that, you will then re-look at the system, the world that we have right now, and say, you know what? The entire landscape has changed after a couple years of having cannabis off Schedule 1. Now let's see what else we should legalize and or pull off schedules. And you slowly pull each piece off. As you do that, you then allow law enforcement to begin to back off slow each point, right? No more cannabis, got it. Now no more what next? No more what next? Law enforcement begins to come off, their dollars go lower, and they start focusing on crimes with victims. No one should be put in jail for having a plant in their pocket. That is immoral, that is wrong, and I would ask anyone watching, anyone listening, if you think to yourself, and I mean this on just a moral or ethical issue, if you saw someone in their house and they were, say, I don't know, snorting cocaine, I'll make that up, snorting cocaine. If they were snorting cocaine, do you believe, and I mean not legally, morally or ethically, you have a total right to kick in their door, snatch that cocaine from their hand, beat them up, and put them in a cage? If you say, yeah, Larry, I'm ethically, that makes sense, I should be able to do that. I should be able to kick some guy's door because I see him smoking cocaine, punch him, beat him up, and put him in a cage, then you're okay with the war on drugs. But if you don't think you should be able to do it, why should cops? Cops are just us. We've outsourced our law enforcement to the police force, which is fine. I'm not against that concept. Okay, we've done that. But if morally, not legally, morally or ethically, you would say to yourself, no, Larry, I'm not okay kicking in somebody's door and taking that out of their hands, beating them up, put them in a cage, and then confiscating all their money and not letting them work anymore. I'm not okay personally doing that. Then why would you think the cops could do it? That's the war on drugs. But if you would say to yourself instead, what if you saw, I don't know, some guy getting ready to stab some child? Would you think that it would be morally okay or ethically okay if you kick the door in and stop that? I would hope yes.
Yeah.
That's what cops should be doing. Yeah, do that. Right? Stop the people who are robbing, stealing, hurting, killing, raping. Stop them. Those are they're
Victimful
victims.
crimes as opposed to victimless crimes.
Correct. Those are real crimes. They have victims. Let's have our cops focus on them. The war on drugs is outdated. It's prohibition. Prohibition didn't work when God tried it. Why would we think cops can? As much as you may think our governor or our president or our mayor is amazing, I don't think our mayor is amazing. But whatever you might think, they're not better than God. That I'm going to bet on. I'm going to bet on that one. Did I answer your war on drugs?
Yes, you did. You absolutely did. Let's go into abortion real quick because that's such a big issue right now, around the world especially, not even just in America. For religious purposes, people are very anti-abortion, and for, I don't know if they call it a woman's rights issue, that they are pro-abortion. Me personally, Mr. Sharpe, I see it as how it stemmed. The start of Planned Parenthood, the start of abortion, is simply eugenics and white supremacy. Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, said this herself. This is not a conspiracy theory. These are facts. You can look them up. If you're watching this video, feel free to fact check me. Even fast forward a few decades or so, RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, says Roe v. Wade was not passed because of a woman's right issue. It was passed simply because they thought they had an increase in undesired populations of races of people. And that's all I'll say on abortion myself before you provide your solution with it.
So yeah, all of this is correct. Many of our bad policies began for horrible reasons and now have morphed into something that we've made it moral or important for some reason to validate our bad behavior, but it still creates something but bad outcomes to everyone. Gun control was originally racist. Abortion was originally racist. War on drugs was originally racist, right? War on poverty, originally racist. But all these things have now kept going, and now we've made moral stories around them.
Yes.
And now, when other people, the entire country is being affected, now we start rethinking our policies. It becomes hard because we've told these moral stories to validate our bad behavior for decades. So now, how do we back off on that when we realize it's just bad policy? I'll discuss abortion if I could. Abortion is another issue, like immigration, that's never going to be solved because it's another wedge issue. I can just yell, I'm pro-life, and Republicans will get behind me even though I do nothing about it. Or worse, literally I have my mistress, I knock her up and then have her get an abortion and then I call myself pro-life. That actually happens.
Yes.
Or I just say I'm pro-choice because I'm in a blue district and Democrats going to support me. Or from the purple district, I just go, well, it's settled law. That's all I say, and that's my excuse to not talk about it. That's my excuse. And anyone who says it's settled law, they're in a purple district, and they don't want to get in trouble, so they just say that. The reality of it is, I am personally anti-abortion, but I don't call myself pro-life.
Same with me, Mr. Sharpe.
Because pro-life means that I want the government to outlaw it. I don't want that, and there's a reason why. I know people say, but it's murder, Larry, but it's this. I get it. I get where you're coming from. Understand something. The social repercussions behind it and the stories we've told ourselves of being pro-life has become, and some of you pro-lifers will be mad when I say it, but understand it's not an attack. It's just explain what's happened. It's become anti-woman. That is now the image that comes across. If you are pro-life, people say, oh, you're anti-woman. And if you are pro-choice, you are pro-woman. That is the image that is coming across now. So how do we deal with that? By understanding that government cannot stop abortion. It will never stop abortion. What actually happens when you outlaw abortion is you wind up punishing poor women because you can't actually outlaw abortion. All you can can do is outlaw safe abortion.
Yes.
That's all you can actually do. You will wind up punishing poor women. What's my evidence of that? Ireland. Ireland recently ended their ban on abortion because they realized the wealthy Irish fly over to the UK, get abortions safely. The poor Irish women don't. They get punished and have back alley abortions or whatever the case may be. Or we start putting doctors in jail. Nothing but bad. So what will I do if I claim to be anti-abortion? Look, I'm adopted, so this is personal for me. I want to make it so that women choose to not have abortions. That I'm okay with. What do we do? Things like making surrogacy legal throughout the entire country. It's not. So if you have a woman who gets pregnant, there are literally thousands of families across this nation, if not more, if not tens of thousands, who would happily pay all of your medical bills, pay all your health expenses, and write you a check monthly so that they can get your baby at the end of your pregnancy. Happily, they would do that. It's called surrogacy, and in many states, up until recently in New York State, against the law, illegal. Why? Stupid slave laws, and of course, race-mixing laws. We can't have that, right? Those are all bad things. Who cares? If you get pregnant and someone wants your baby and you're happy to do that, please do it. Also, let's make adoption easier. How many people do you personally know, if you're watching, who went over to Romania or China or Russia or wherever, Mexico, to get babies? Why? There are babies here because we've made it so hard to adopt. It is silly. It has to end. Stop that. If you want to adopt a baby, let that be an easy answer. Also, contraception. Let contraception be legal and over the counter. Why are we going to doctors for things like that? Not required. If we have less pregnancies, we'll have less abortions. What I promise to anybody who's pro-life, if you support me, if I run again, there will be less abortions, that I promise you. And I will never, ever remove your choice and never have government put their hands on your body. I will give you all three of those. That's an actual solution that we can actually make less abortions. But I'll go one step further. And this is controversial, but I don't mind. I'll touch the controversial issues. There are a lot of people who think they're winning, who they're pro-life, saying, we're winning because we're going to get Roe v. Wade overturned. Odds are it's not going to happen anyway. But let's say it does. Let's say tomorrow it does. You go, yay, we're winning. Here's what I promise you. At least 30 states will immediately put in their state constitutions or make law that will make abortion legal in their state. And every state that doesn't have it will be looked upon as a backward, anti-woman, woman-hating state. Which means eventually they will also put it in their state constitutions also. Abortion will actually be legal in every state once, if Roe v. Wade is actually overturned. It's not winning. It's a Pyrrhic victory. If you want to actually change, you must change the culture, not the law. You must change the culture. And that's not a 5-minute solution, and that's not yelling I'm pro-choice or I'm pro-life. That's making cultural change. It takes time and energy. There's a long-term battle, but one I'm prepared to fight along with you if you'll fight it with me.
I'm with
you. Can
Sure.
do that. Now, when it comes to Planned Parenthood, people go, we got to end Planned Parenthood. No, we have to make sure it has every right to exist as a nonprofit, not as a government-financed organization. Government money should not go into Planned Parenthood at all. But if you care about Planned Parenthood, you want to write a check to them, do it on you. That's your money. Do what you want with it. But once it is not, if it's financed by the government, then Planned Parenthood does not have to move or shift as the culture moves or shifts because it gets its cash no matter what. But if it's financed by a donor base, it will move or shift as the culture moves or shifts. So if we shift the culture and Planned Parenthood is just another nonprofit being funded by a donor base of our culture, it will move along with us. That's how you fix Planned Parenthood.
I love that answer. I really do. What do we have next on the list there?
Next on the list was law enforcement.
Law enforcement. Obviously, people want to defund police, fund the police more. Police are terrible. Police are great. There's good police, there's bad police is the first thing I say. I recognize the good, I recognize the bad. Personally, I do believe there are more good than there are bad, but however, when the good do nothing, the bad win. Does that make sense, Mr. Sharpe?
Yes, absolutely.
What is the libertarian solution to, is there even a need for a solution? Is there
100%
massive
there
reform needed?
Oh, yes,
what is the
indeed.
answer?
And the reform should not be top down,
Okay.
as always. There are certain things that should be done at the top, but almost all of these things should be done at the local level if you're unhappy with your police force.
Sure.
Then what they do is, I don't want, I'm never going to be one size fits all.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're happy with your police force, nothing should change. And in certain communities, they don't have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So why would I want to reform or defund if you're happy with the way you're being policed? If you're not happy with the way you're being policed, you should reset or recharge or change your police force. Absolutely. Let me do some top-down and then local. Top-down parts. There are 4 parts that can be done top-down, either state and or a federal level. Number 1, end qualified immunity. Qualified immunity is for everyone, not just police. Judges too. Just because you're a government official doesn't mean all of a sudden you're above the law. And while qualified immunity doesn't actually mean that, that's what actually happens. As a general rule, they become above the law. That's not what I want. I want to end qualified immunity, meaning that if you do something bad, be punished for it like anybody else. Now, of course, the response is, but then cops will be sued all the time. Not true at all. But that goes into my second piece, which is everyone should hold their own liability insurance. All professionals do. I do as a consultant. Lawyers do. Doctors do. Give your own liability insurance. All cops should hold their own insurance. Why? If a cop does something bad right now, who has to pay for that? Well, the city or the state does. They have
Which
to pay
is the
for it.
taxpayers.
Which is the
anyway.
taxpayer. So when that happens, why does the cop even care? That someone else pays for it.
Yeah.
If you're a bad cop, why do you care? If
There's
you're
no
a bad
punishment.
There's no punishment if you're a bad cop. Not just that, the city doesn't want to admit it, neither does the state. So what does the city or state do? To keep the unions happy, to keep everybody happy, they just go, you should resign. So the bad cop resigns. So he caps in County A, he resigns. He now goes to County B. He's a bad cop. What does he do? Something bad. When he does something bad in County B, people go, oh, look, in every county there's bad cops. It's the same cop. Well, they don't want to deal with him either, so they allow him to resign. When he resigns, he gets fired, he doesn't have a bad record. He goes to County C. He does a bad thing there. Oh my God, these are bad cops everywhere. They're terrible. They're everywhere. No, it's the same cop.
Just moving them around.
And that's what happens all the time. Just like sadly Catholic Church did. Same thing. When you don't have a way of holding the individual accountable, this is what happens. You move people around. So, but let's say that person, that cop instead, had their own liability insurance. What happens? Cop does something bad. If they're not a bad cop, they made a mistake. It's like you have a car accident. You pay a little higher in your insurance for a couple years. Back in action, life is good. You move on, you lose your job. You pay a little extra, whatever happens. All good. But what if you're a bad cop? You keep doing bad things. Eventually, your insurance company goes, I'm not going to insure you. You're a crappy cop. Not everybody should be cops. So they don't insure you. Well, you don't have to worry about it. You can't be a cop. The bad cops get pushed out on their own because they either it's too expensive to insure them or they can't get insurance. Either way, bad cops get pushed out. Good cops are still fine. You make a mistake, you pay a small fee, you move on. That sets it up right away. But more important than that, well, Larry, the unions would never take care of that. Yes, they will, because we make the unions the brokers. Unions broker the insurance and make money on good cops paying insurance. Which means now, if you're a member of a union, you know this, many unions, too many, spend 90% of the time defending 10% of their bad people. Well, if all of a sudden most of your money is coming from good cops paying insurance, you're going to spend all your time supporting the good cop, trying to make sure they get raised because they're a good cop, trying to make sure that they don't get slandered because they're a good cop. You let the bad cop go because he can't get insured anyway. Have a nice day, which is what I want. More importantly, though, if the city or state isn't paying for it, what is in the city's or state's best interest? Not to cover it up, but to get to the truth. So now you've just given an incentive for any investigations in the police force to just be truthful. Not to punish a bad cop for just because, I'm sorry, not to punish a good cop because he's in the wrong place, wrong time. Not to defend a bad cop because you don't want to pay for his mistake. But the truth, that's it. Bad cops get punished. Good cops get rewarded. Mediocre cops who do bad get hit every once in a while, and that's about it. This system will help tremendously. But I'm still not done. I got 2 more parts. One, as I said earlier, take cannabis off of Schedule 1. You take cannabis off Schedule 1, now you got cops not making those silly busts anymore. Not touching having those interactions with poor communities they don't need to have anymore. That begins to go away. Fourth, you end civil asset forfeiture, which is cops having to fund black communities because they still have cash. The immigrant communities, they don't trust banks, so they carry cash. They do a bunch of cash businesses, or they're in a drug war, which is all cash. But if you legalize cannabis, all that cash goes away. You begin to end civil asset forfeiture, unnecessary busts, all those things go away. Cops dealing with actual crimes with victims. It makes everything better. Now that's top. Let me go local. I put together an idea called FAQS, F-A-Q-S. It's a way to reorganize your police force with a community component that allows you to shift and adjust your police force in the way you want to be policed. FAQS. F is family law. A is active policing. Q is quality of life. S is social work. You break it into 4 different parts. First one's family law. I do not want a cop who's in active policing all of a sudden at the crime scene now to deal with, two spouses yelling at each other with kids involved. You just have a crime scene, you're all amped up, someone's going to jail, and that might not be required. I don't blame the cop for that. Cops are just humans. As you said, when George Floyd died, we went into 2 camps. The left said cops are evil, the right said cops are gods. Neither is true. They're human beings trying to do a job in a system that is not set up for them to succeed. That is not the right place. That's how we should look at them. So fix the system, you will have better cops. That's how that works. If you're happy with your policing, then leave your cops alone. If you're not happy, change the system. First thing's family law. Family law, I want that to be a cop who's only dealing with family issues, and the ride along in the community aspect of that police force is chaplains, supported by local churches, local temples, local synagogues, local people in that area who can go and help them judge a situation. They're only dealing with family law issues, kids, spouses, girlfriend, boyfriend stuff. Sometimes that boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever is violent, in which case, great, I got my cop there to put him down. No worries. But very often, this is where a chaplain can step in and go, you know what? No need for handcuffs tonight. No need. Let me tow these people out. Let me make this work. We can make this happen. That's a separate police force with separate training and separate equipment. Next is active policing. That's the active cops. That's the cops going in, murderers, rapists, those guys. exactly right. So you make it a rule. You only get to be in the front line for 3 years. Everybody has to go off and do either quality of life or social work or family law, whatever.
Okay.
Get that stuff out of your head, then get you back into the front line again.
I like that a lot.
You do that, you're creating a better system for better cops. A better system. They're just human beings. That's all they are. Human beings like me, like you. They got a tough job. Let's make a better system.
Absolutely.
Next is quality of life. Quality of life is writing tickets. It's things like, noise pollution, dogs on the loose, parking tickets, right? That kind of thing.
Sure.
And that will depend upon your environment. Generally speaking, if you're in a more rural area, quality of life issues are a whole lot less.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in an urban area, a whole lot more. And again, you'll shift and adjust. Now, for that is local charities, nonprofits, local clubs like American Legion, Knights of Columbus, places like that, VFW, Elks Club, places like that where they are the dispatchers. They dispatch what's going on. They're the central area. Why do I always have a community component? Because I want the community always to be linked to its police force in every case. And I want the community to be able, through volunteer or through charity, to be able to supplement the police force when required.
Sure.
Because when the emergencies come, you may have to shove a bunch of cops into one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
The civilian population, because they are part of the police force, can step up required. There is a template. There is a skeleton for them to actually shift and move along that. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
That's why you always want a community aspect to it.
Okay.
That's that part. Last is social work. That's for addicts, people who are having mental problems, homeless. I don't want a cop, again, who just came from a crime scene to have to deal with someone who's homeless or someone who's an addict. That guy or gal's going to jail,
Mm-hmm.
and they might not need to. So instead, that cop for that group works along with a social worker.
Okay.
I know in New York City, like, every cop should have a social worker. No, just that department should. Which that department gets bigger or smaller depending upon your individual community. Do you have a community with a massive homeless problem or a massive addiction problem or a massive, insert thing problem like that? Okay, make that bigger. Yeah, you don't, make it smaller. But either way, that's supported by local colleges.
Yes.
People who are doing social work and teachers who teach psychology, they support that, and they're the right along now. Now you get those people who are trying to do social work, and they get put in the field right away. They learn what reality is. They get on-the-job training. You get better social workers, people who care about the community, who want to live in the community. And look, there's going to be times when that homeless guy's going to come at somebody with a knife, or that addict's going to stab you with his needle. Well, the cop's there. Sometimes that guy's got to be put down, like family law. Sometimes it's bad. Someone's got to be put down. I got it. Cop's there to make that happen.
Yes.
But it might be a social issue, in which case a social work can make that happen.
Of course.
Different training, different equipment, different thought processes, and you can have the civilian or community component as large or small as you want. And here's the best part. The community component is paid for by the community. It is voluntary and through charity, not through the actual state, no taxes. You can get a better, stronger police force. Again, not one extra tax, in fact, cheaper.
Wow. You just solved that.
Yes.
So you just fixed the country, Mr. Sharpe. You really did.
Libertarians don't care about left-right fighting.
No.
They care about solving the
Solutions.
actual problem.
Absolutely.
Without more taxes and without forcing anything. With this plan, each community changes as they see fit.
Yes. And it's local based, as you said. That's
It is.
really important. It's not going to be mandated by the governor or by the president. Your community decides how you want to run itself in terms of whatever. it may be.
Yep.
I like that a lot. What else? What other talking points do we have on
military.
there?
Let's
Military.
hear it.
I want to put military with taxation because something that I get from the right a lot is, well, if they cut federal taxation, how are we going to afford the military? What is the answer to that, Mr. Sharpe?
Yeah, absolutely. But if you've ever noticed, you never hear me talk actually about cutting taxes.
Okay.
It's about cutting spending,
Sure.
right? Because we're in massive debt with massive deficits. So the first thing I got to do is start cutting spending, and then we can decide how we deal with our debt and our taxes.
Okay.
But first, let's cut spending. So let's talk about the military-industrial complex. That's the military.
Yes.
What most people don't understand, the military-industrial complex is a massive jobs program. That's why we can't get rid of it. Things like foreign aid is an example, right? What we do is we'll take, say, I don't know, $100 million, $100 billion, and give it to country A.
Yes.
Country A says, thank you for $100 billion. We will take $10 billion and give it out to our cronies and our corrupt aristocracy, and we'll take $90 billion and buy weapons from you.
Okay.
So it's a jobs program. It's a jobs program. That's a common thing. So you can't just stop foreign aid. You also just can't all of a sudden shut down all our bases. It doesn't work. We have agreements. We have deals. We have treaties we've made. But can you begin to shut it down? Yes. What should our government look like at the end? Let me give you, our military should look like at the end. We actually only need 4 parts to our military. Only 4 parts all we require. Part number 1, we have to retain a nuclear deterrent. We have to keep nuclear weapons just enough to trash any country. We can reduce anything else. Enough to trash countries is all we need. The idea of a nuclear deterrent, mutually assured destruction, is what's kept us out of nuclear war for the past, 80 years is it now? How long have we been there? 75 years? Could take 80 years?
Yes.
That is a good idea. We should keep it. But we don't need 14,000 nuclear warheads. I'm exaggerating.
Yeah.
But we don't need that many. We need enough to trash 1 or 2 countries, and we're done. That's all we need. They'd be afraid that we will nuke them out. Done. That's piece 1. So immediately we can begin to push that back while still staying safe on the nuclear side.
Okay.
Second, we need lots more special forces. Navy SEALs, Force Recon, Mountain Divisions. We need special forces. We do not need massive tank division, massive infantry divisions. None of that. We are not going to fight a massive land war again for at least the next 100 years. Larry, can you guarantee that? Yes, I will guarantee that.
Yes.
No one's invading us. It's not going to happen. Not at all. The Chinese aren't going to invade us. It would take them at least 20 years to build up any form of navy or ability to invade. At least maybe 50. And the amount it will cost, we'd see it a mile away. No way going to happen. There's no invasion. The Russians aren't going to invade Europe and they can't afford to feed their own people. It's not. It can't take Ukraine. It's not going to happen. It's a fantasy. So we don't need that. What we need is special forces. Why? A lot of the problems that are coming from America to America today are not state-run actors. They are not state. They were the Osama bin Ladens of the world, the ISIS of the world. They're these types. We need special forces able to go in, do surgical strikes to remove these people, to end them, and move out. Imagine if we could think of after 9/11. Instead of invading 2 countries stupidly, we just took all of our special forces, the best in the world by everyone's account. No one is denying that fact. We have the best special forces on the planet. If we had sent all of them after Osama bin Laden only, nothing else, what would have happened? Most people would tell you, most would agree, experts would agree, within about 2 years, we'd have caught Osama. We'd have killed him and I've been it. Not all would agree, but most would agree that's true. We'd have caught him, done. Killed him, or whatever. If you want to arrest him, fine, but I'm okay with the kill part too. But whatever. Whatever the issue is, you deal with him and all his lieutenants, and you let everyone know, you mess with us, that's your end. That's your end. You're all dead. You're not going to catch us in a war where you can raise money and be a recruiting tool for us, or prop up your terrible regime because we need to support you because we're invading some country. All that goes away. That goes dead. That's your reward. Attack us, you're all dead. That's your reward. That needs to be bigger, stronger, faster. ISIS comes up, boom, get rid of them. These people who are supposedly attacking us in the Ukraine or wherever, oh, it's not me, Putin says, it's these guys. Great, it's these guys. How about when we send Navy SEALs and kill them all? Done. I don't care what country. I don't care if it's Russia. If you're telling me you can't control it, Russia, but it's these guys, I have no idea if that's true. I'm making this up, say it is. We send our forces in and kill them all. Russia won't be mad, right? Because it's not their people. Thank you. Russia will say, thank you, America, for doing that. And if they don't say thank you, I don't really care. Special forces, lots of them. Biggest part, all the rest of the military can begin to be whittled down to defending the borders only in case the Mexicans get mad or something, I guess. We can stop them, but that's never going to happen. Third part, which we are severely behind on, cyber. We need cyber warfare, offense and defense like there's no tomorrow. Snowden showed us that we're better inside than we are outside. So are the Russians, so are the Chinese. We are behind on this. Focus on cyber. Cyber attack and defense.
That is my dream MLS, by the way.
That's the answer. Well, how do you understand to the Russians or whatever? I'm not going to invade Russia. It's a stupid idea to even imagine. I'm not going to nuke Russia. That is World War II thinking. Who cares? It's dumb. Here's what you do. You're going to bother us, the Chinese or Russians or Iranians, whoever. Great. How about I use my cyber attack to give you 3 Chernobyls? How about that? You want 3 Chernobyls? You don't want that? Stop messing with us. Oh, I'll do that. How about I shut your entire grid down for 6 months, crushing your economy, as we're doing voluntarily in our own country?
Yeah.
But anyway, how about I do it to you? contracts. I don't want to break those contracts, but what I want to do is negotiate out of them or let them all go away.
Sure.
As they go away, begin to let them all go away and take the bases down over time. It's probably a 5-year process to bring all the bases back. And when I say all the bases, I mean all of them except those required to guard trade routes.
Okay.
All of the troops begin to come home immediately from all the wars. We declare victory in every war. We declare victory in Oman, victory in Somalia, victory because we're bombing all those countries.
Of course.
Victory, I'm sorry, not Oman, Yemen, sorry. Victory in Yemen, victory in Somalia, victory in Mali. We declare victory in Iraq, victory in Afghanistan. We won them all because I said so, have prayed, bring everybody home.
Mm-hmm.
They come home and we begin to severely restrict re-enlistments and recruiting to match my 4 parts of our military. Now, those who are begin to shift to those jobs. You don't want to shift to those jobs, you get out of the military, right? You only recruit for those people into those new jobs. The rest, you get out of the military.
Sure.
So you don't just bring people home, discharge them. You let them finish out their contracts, give them the opportunity to shift into new worlds, reduce recruitments. That begins to bring the military down to what we talked about.
Okay.
Not just that, you now have, as you begin to bring these people home, all these jobs begin to go away, right? You stop paying for these bases. You stop the foreign aid. You have to open up trade with all of our enemies. I'm doing air quotes, enemies. None of them are actual enemies. Open up trade completely with North Korea. Trade completely with Korea. Trade completely with Iran. Well, Larry, what if they don't open up trade? I don't care. We're open. No tariffs, nothing. Come on in. Free trade zones. Go on in. Why? If we do that, all those people who are now getting jobs in the military-industrial complex will now instead start picking up those jobs in those new trade markets. The people who've been living overseas, the people who have been in the State Department, all those diplomats, all those things, they now can start joining these companies who are now trading in Iran, trading in North Korea, trading in Cuba. They can now trading in those companies. They will get those American jobs, start moving American products, and now those companies that are now selling whatever, fighter jets to Saudi Arabia will now sell Fords to Cuba, or will now sell whatever, iPods to, do we do iPods, iPads, to Iran or whatever. We begin to now, as we bring the military complex down, the job begins to open up, and now we begin to have less enemies. Imagine if all of us in North Korea, they can stop buying our products and services. We can start building up in them. We can get a McDonald's in there.
Sure.
Right? You might say, well, they can't afford it. Neither could the Russians, but they found money. They found money. And now the elites of North Korea can also make extra cash and not be tied to Kim Jong-un. All of a sudden, his war doesn't look so good anymore. So now we go to China and say, hey, China, do me a favor. Will you take Kim Jong-un in? We will remove all of our bases from South Korea. Yes, I'm going to fix Korea for you right now.
Okay.
The reason why China is not going to allow North and South Korea to unite is because we have our forces in South Korea. When we shut all those bases down, there's no Americans on their border. Now we open up relations with North Korea, allow their elites to also trade with us, their people to trade with us. South Koreans begin to get that idea. Kim Jong-un and all his crew start going, wait a minute, do I really want to do this anymore? We talk about China and say, hey, China, look, if we agree to let Kim Jong-un pack up, take his whatever, $5 billion he stole from his country, move to say Shanghai, live out his life there, will you let him do it? They'll say yes. How do I know that? We negotiate the same deal with Idi Amin. Idi Amin died in France.
Oh, wow.
Been done before. We'll do it again. I'm not making this stuff up. We've done it. Why will the Kims never leave? Where are they going always lobbying for?
Or
Tax changes.
Yes, of course.
Constantly. What if there's no such thing as a tax change? That chunk of corporate lobbyists just went away
wow.
because they're always lobbying for tax changes.
Yes.
But there's no tax change. Not just that. You hear, and in fact, what Joe Biden just said. My tax plan means you won't get taxed if you're $400,000 or more. How do you know that? You don't. His tax plan is convoluted, and disaster, and a garbage. No one knows. No one knows. But if all there was that, you would know, because you would have to make a law that says if you make $400,000 or more, you pay 11%.
Okay.
You would actually know.
Yes.
You would know if they're raising your taxes or not. You wouldn't have to look at your check in the end and guess or hope.
Yes, exactly.
They would. We're going to lower the
Set.
tax rate to 9.5.
Mhm.
You've lowered my taxes.
Okay.
You raised my taxes to 10.5. You raised my taxes. I get it.
Yes.
Right? Or if there's going to be a tier, right? I'm only going to punish the wealthy. It's obvious. It's not if they do this, loopholes, whatever.
Yeah.
Most of the wealthy don't pay much in tax percentage at all because they pay accounts to get through loopholes.
Yes.
Imagine there's no loopholes.
And they're paying their tax.
They're paying their X percent.
Everyone that wants to eat the rich or whatever it's called is happy because they're now paying their
But let's
fair
say,
share.
but here's the best part. Let's say you actually get angry enough Americans who want to beat the rich up. Let's say that happens. You can actually do that even fairly because the law would be very simple. However, the people decide the rich are, whatever that number is, say for the sake of argument, it's $500,000 a year is rich. Whatever number they say.
Yes.
Then you make a law that says if you pay $500,000, if you make $500,000 a year or more, you pay 11%.
Okay.
So even if you want to beat the rich up, even that's obvious.
And it's all set too.
And it's set.
It's not secretive and you're not hiding it.
Yes, and a lot of people don't pay tax. Why? They don't know how. A lot of poor people go to jail because they don't understand the tax code.
Sure.
A lot of small businesses get hammered. They don't understand the tax code. They go to jail. If that's the tax code, everyone actually pays their taxes. It's simple. You can do it on a postcard.
Okay.
Now imagine changing every tax that we have to be like that. As we begin to shift any and all taxes to be more like that, all the lobbyists go away because they're all trying to somehow get your tax dollars. You will fix the lobbying problem. Money, that kind of amount of money in politics begins to shift away, and now more people will actually pay their taxes.
Yes.
If you're being socialist, it's obvious right there. If America goes that way, I hope it doesn't. But if it does, it's obvious. Here's how it goes. Look.
Yes.
Am I really lowering your taxes or not? I don't know. There's no such thing as the Trump tax plan, the Biden tax plan. It's just, are you raising or lowering taxes?
Exactly.
I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
It makes us all want to join in. Now look at the difference between, like, the example I give is the idea of Dungeons and Dragons versus Uno.
Okay.
I love both games, but it doesn't matter. If I want to play Uno and I go into a bar with a bunch of guys or a club with a bunch of people, whatever it is, and I say, hey, you want to play some Uno? Odds are people want to play. They know the game. It's simple. You can play some Uno. Let's join in. You don't know the game is easy to teach.
Sure.
And you don't need a referee. You know, hey, if it's a blue 3 and you don't put down a blue card or a 3, you're cheating. Everyone
Yes.
calls you out. And, easy game. I love that. Look at Dungeons and Dragons. Well, I love the game. If I walk into a club or a bar and say, hey guys, you want to play Dungeons and Dragons? Odds are I'm not going to invite to play. If someone doesn't know how, I can't really explain to them. It takes forever to figure it out. And if you happen to know the rules, you have an advantage. There's literally a dungeon master who's hiding stuff, right? Who's hiding stuff. Okay, all of it's right. Sorry, all of it's right. All of it's right. Who's hiding stuff. I want all of government to be more like Uno. More people will play. It's transparent. There's no need for referees or judges.
Okay.
People don't get in trouble. You can call out cheating, obviously. More like Uno, less like Dungeons and Dragons.
I like it. I like it.
That's
Straightforward.
taxation.
No loopholes, nothing.
Yes. Education.
Education. And if we could quickly, after education, just healthcare, and we'll finish off on that.
Oh my God,
because
we won't have time.
we won't have time. Okay.
No
Next
way.
time.
I have too many things.
That's fine, yes.
Yes. I'll try to touch education. Healthcare is a longer conversation also, but also totally repairable. Education. Education. The first thing we want to do is we want to end the teeth that is federal funding.
Sure.
Federal funding makes everything worse in education, no matter what state you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean I want to get rid of the Department of Education? Not necessarily. I'm okay with keeping it as long as there's only one thing: a repository for information.
Straight right.
Turn right. Yep.
Side. Yep.
If it's a repository for information where people or counties or states can go to get information, I have no problem with it existing.
Okay.
What I have a problem is that it has any enforcement, which means it can give out money.
Sure.
it should give out no money. No state taxes or income tax should go towards the Department of Education at all. Zero, not a dime. If it is valuable, if it provides value, local school districts and or states or counties will pay for the information in some way of paying for it if they want it, if it's valuable. Otherwise, it will naturally go away. But Larry, how in the world can we have a Department of Education? Education without Department of Education? Well, if you're old like me, you went to school sometime before 1980, and before 1980 there really was no DOE. Somehow we learned how to read, write, and survive in life and do well. We survived somehow without a federal Department of Education. Not just that, would anyone say education has gotten better over the past 40 years?
It's probably gotten worse.
It's gotten worse. The DOE has made things worse. Here's one of the reasons why. You want to go all the way down to 21st and turn right, all the way down.
Sure.
So, and one of the reasons why is federal funding means federal strings attached, which means standardized testing. We have standardized testing in schools right now throughout the country. People like as early as 10 years old. When you start doing standardized testing for 10-year-olds, and that 10-year-old can't take a test well, that kid is now deemed to be a dumb kid or a stupid kid, when they're just a kid who can't take a test well.
Exactly.
Now they're labeled a dumb kid.
I was that kid.
You got it. They will now label that kid, and that kid will act out. That's how it works, because that's what kids do.
Mm-hmm.
You've now taken away their opportunities. You've hurt them because of a test which has no actual value. The sad part is testing, standardized testing, has no indication of success at all.
Yeah.
None in life. You can be very successful or not successful at all and be a great or bad test taker. So no standardized testing that goes away immediately. Not just that, that's a way of grading schools. That's a way of giving teachers money.
Yes.
Everything now gets taught to the test. Why? Because that's how they get their federal funds.
Mm-hmm.
Why is there not civics in my school? Why is there not
wood shop, anything
wood
like
shop?
that?
Because it's not in the test.
Yep.
What's on the test? English and math. So they teach you the test to get their money.
Mm-hmm.
When that goes away, now local schools can put what they want in their own curriculum. You might want to put farming in your school. You might want to have a rifle club. That's not
skills.
on the test. You might want to have Sharpe. You might want to have home ec. You might want to have civics.
Sure.
Whatever is valuable for you, you might want to have, and your local community will decide. End federal funding. Not just that. End the entire idea of K through 12.
Mm-hmm.
K through 12 has to go down to K through 10.
Mm-hmm.
K through 10 is enough for anyone to survive and do well in our country. But however, that doesn't mean school can end or should end. It means that now says you're 16, you've gone through 10 grades. If you can't function in our world at 16 years old with 10 years of school, how bad is our system?
Yes.
Of course you can function.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's just you make some decisions. My New York State plan, you have 2 years to figure things out. Do you either go to a trade school, which we have destroyed trade schools like there's no tomorrow?
I wish trade schools were more offered to me.
Not
out of
on
high
the
school.
test. You don't get federal funds for that. You get federal funds by one thing, guys. How many kids go to college?
Exactly.
And that's why there's trade schools are just completely looked down upon and trashed. And why do we need so much foreign labor? Because our American kids don't know how to do trades.
Nope.
And we need trades, and it's because of federal funding that makes that happen. So when you get rid of federal funding, kids might go to trade school. Go to 2-year trade school if you want to. Up to you if you want to, right? You can do that. But they don't, because federal funds goes to schools who put kids in college. Go to a prep school so you're ready for college, which is spending the last 2 years of high school for a whole bunch of kids right now is basically smoking weed, gym, study hall, and video games.
Yep.
And then, of course, what's college now? Because you're not ready for college. College is 13th grade. That's the most common thing we have now in America to this day. So instead, go to a prep school. You want to go to law, you want to go to history, whatever. Go to a prep school. By the time you go to college, you are ready to rock and roll. You can graduate in 3 years and actually make something happen. You don't want to do that. No worries. I have an idea. Go to an actual college. You're that smart kid. You're that geek kid who can go to college right away. Go to college right away. Start on your master's degree, as early as possible. Just go. You want to do that? No worries. Get a job. Go to work. When you get what?
Not a bad idea.
Oh my God, I'm 16. What are you gonna die in a loom accident? Stop. This is not the 1820s.
Yeah.
Stop that stuff, right? Go to work if you want to. Get a job. Get a work ethic. Learn that when your boss says show up at 8, he means 7:45, not 9:30.
Absolutely.
Learn that at 16, right? Or start a business. You can do it. Go. Larry, 16 kids will make mistakes. Yeah, and they're still home with mom and dad. And the price for failure at 16 is much lower than the price is for 26. Make that mistake at 26. That's a high price. 17, 18, 16, 17, 18, they're learning to make decisions. They're learning to learn repercussions. They're taking charge of their life, having hope and purpose. What is killing our kids? It's not guns. It's not, next lecture, right?
Sure.
It's not guns. It's not video games. It's lack of community, lack of purpose, and loneliness.
I agree.
That's what's killing our kids. But when you give kids purpose at 16, 17, 18, and with now in the schools of people who want to be in those same schools, not forced to be in a school with everyone doesn't want to be there, bullying all of a sudden reduced, purpose increased. We will also reduce school violence. Happier kids, happier parents, happier teachers. The teachers are getting the kids in the schools who want to be in those schools. It changes the entire environment.
I love it.
If we make that change, you will watch a total change in the education system. Kids will be happier. And the last part to realize, college shouldn't be for 19-year-olds. College should be for anybody who wants to learn something new to change their life. That's already happening. You see people now who are school at 30, 40, 50. Let's just exacerbate that. Let's push that out. The wrong word. Let's expound on that so that we can have more people going to college whenever they want to. Maybe you want to go out and be a construction worker for 4 years. Then it's like, you know what? I want to be a manager now. And you go back to school for that. Behind that Amazon truck.
Behind the Amazon truck,
Yes.
sure.
And that's all we need.
That's all we have. Mr.
So
Sharpe,
that was the end. I hope I gave you education well.
you did great on this entire ride. Thank you so much. Always good to see you.
Good to see you, my friend. Thank you, guys.